tendency, if you're going very slow, to catch your right pedal on that banking. It lifts up your back tire and down you go. They'll restart the race, but you end up with a little bit of a bruise and lose your nerve sometime.
I was about to say, what a story that Nelson Vails has. He came on very strong at 83. He was the Pan American champion. He was a former messenger in New York City, grew up in Harlem, rode a bike trying to make a few bucks a week, and delivered the packages faster than anybody else, and thought, well, maybe I'll become a road racer. And did, and now he's become a really fine track cyclist. He's in against one of the best of France. In fact, the French national sprint champion is Philippe Vernet. All right, the bell lapped, and this is where it will happen.
Now you can see Nelson starting to wind it up, make sure the speed is fast so if that French rider gets a jump, it's not going to be that strong of a jump. The French rider's taking him, look at that, high on the track.
Look out here, because they would like to slingshot in behind. Woo! Vernet will go high here on the outside, and Vails is fighting him off.
Vails is on the pole lane.
And Vails pedals hard. He's going to win it.
Whoa.
Oh, he came right up and looked him in the eye, and Vails said, see you around.
French rider tried to come inside.
The 1984 Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles, where he won the silver medal. If you could all welcome us and give a big round of applause to Nelson Vails, the Cheetah. Good morning.
I met Nelson Vails at, I believe, El Dorado Park a long time ago. It was right after he got the silver medal in the '84 Olympics. It was rough being, I can imagine, being a black cyclist in a white sport. It's still now. You don't see that many black professional cyclists that even succeed as far as Nelson did. So you can just imagine that the doors were probably not quite as open then as they are now.
Nelson never played the race card. Never did that. I think he thought himself, he's just a regular old American. He was born here, and that's it. But as far as the images of the sport, because we were basically a white sport. In the United States, they were Major Taylor, who was a great world champion back in the 1800s.
Marshall Walter Taylor was born in Indianapolis, Indiana on November 26, 1878. Taylor won his first amateur race at the age of 13. In 1899, he reached the top of the cycling world by winning the world title in the 1-mile sprint. With that, he became the first African-American world champion in cycling. What made his accomplishments even more impressive was the fact that he was a black man who overcame open racism. He was not allowed to join the League of American Wheelmen, the dominant cycling organization of his day, simply because of his color. While the others were racing for money, Taylor was racing to prove that he was equal of any man.
In the projects, the building that we lived in, which is 20 West on 15th Street, there was only 2 apartments, and I think they made them that way for families because we were there since they were built, so we were the only family that was in that apartment.
Well, back then it was like a village. We were raised by our environment. We had a lot of adults that participated in our education, and they made sure that we did the right thing.
Back in that day, kids were out on their own. Me and Nelson hanging out in the streets at 8 years old, playing with our Tonka trucks, digging up the grass, sneaking on subways, writing graffiti. We didn't know any better. That's what the kids were doing back then.
As a kid, he was adventurous. He broke off and did his own thing. He wasn't a follower, he was a leader.
My mom had him at 45. He was just spoiled. He was spoiled. I remember when he didn't get his way, he used to fall out. Like fall out, bam, and do a little tantrum thing.
I was watching TV and my mother would come in and say, you know, that boy, watch how they do this at a certain time, and then run me out the living room with the TV.
As a child, him being the last one, he was very spoiled. Just before he was born, my older brother was murdered. He was 19 years old. He was murdered right on our stoop by a gang member. So I guess because of the sadness and mourning, a month later him being born, my mom he was the last one, so we just spoiled him. He was special.
That was a time of the welfare movement, so there was you know, a lot of joblessness and lack of training, and it was difficult.
And back then there was a big drug era. It was just coming about with the dope and everything. And a lot of kids' parents, they weren't steady-minded enough to mold their children to get out. You know, some of them were, like the grandmothers here, which are mostly all gone now. They were old-fashioned enough to teach your kids right, you know, mold your kids into something, make sure they want to be something.
We had a lot of hardships, but we didn't know it. I mean, when we look back at it now, we had a lot of hardships. You know, our families, we struggled, but we had fun doing it. We didn't realize we were struggling.
He made the right choices. I was in sports. His older brother, Ronnie, was in sports. So he took the sports road. And he had talent, a natural talent at a very young age.
We'd had the same skateboard. We skate downhill. He was at the bottom of the hill. I'm still starting at the top. It was just something that him and speed just went hand in hand.
Around that time of me getting into cycling, I was hanging around the motorcycle club called the Black Unicorns. And these were some cool guys. They had nice fancy cars, fancy bikes. And I was thrilled by the motorcycles, but it was right outside Central Park, and that's how I got hooked up into that situation. But one of the motorcycle club members gave me their nice bike because they weren't riding. It was a Peugeot PX10. I remember that very well. It was a little too big, but it was a Peugeot. It was one of the nicest bikes you can buy then. And I rode that bike in Central Park every day. And that was my first real racing bike, and I did not know what I was doing.
And there's no doubt it was really tough for Nelson, and even tougher because he wasn't becoming a basketball player or a baseball player or something. He was becoming a cyclist.
Where they came from, it was a tough road. I mean, no money, didn't have bikes, they had to work hard. Nelson did a lot of menial jobs to make it into cycling.
Well, Nelson, when he was 17 years old, decided he needed to get a job. And I was his first boss. First boss meaning bought him his first bike when he first started. He'd get up at 6 o'clock, 5:30, go to 25 miles, and he would come to work at 8:30.
It was a job for him, a legitimate messenger job. And outside of the job, he would actually cycle. And so I would say the job was his training ground.
You'd ride your bike around and you'd make $150 for the day at the end of the day, and all you did was ride your bike around. And it was like, and they gave me money for that. I would have raced up 6th Avenue for nothing, you know? You just enjoyed riding the bike.
Riding in the streets of New York as a messenger built my confidence of awareness. Just awareness alone. Mind you, this is way before the cell phone, telex machine. I think it was about as good as it got, but everyone used messengers in the city. My awareness in traffic, my surroundings alone, my keen sense of surrounding, just growing up in New York City alone. Just knowing what's going on in my peripheral vision, recognizing things. Don't pay attention, but noticing things. Riding in the streets of New York City helped my cycling skills as far as racing in a pack, to be able to avoid crashes. I worked my ass off as a messenger. I leave the house at 8 o'clock on the dot, calling in from the house phone, get my first run, and then have a pocket full of dimes and running all day till 5.
For us, on foot and bike, the streets are they're pretty mean, and we really got to be alert all the time, you know, because we're in traffic a lot. You know, a lot of times, you know, you can see a messenger on the street, you may not know he's a foot messenger, but he's a runner. And so he's going in and out of traffic just the same as a bike, but not in the same way.
The track race is a mind game. Navigating, knowing when to have that right foot up and down with the press to give you that momentum and push. And the same with jockeying in traffic with the buses and the cars at the stop sign.
There's no doubt that Nelson's day as a bike messenger and the craziness that you have to go through every day, you know, avoiding cars, avoiding pedestrians, avoiding people crossing the crosswalks and trucks and taxis, that was great. That was a great training ground for life as a top sprinter in the world.
He had a talent to ride a bike, something that everybody learned to do, but his interest in it was piqued, you know, at one time or another, and he took it seriously. Opportunity. He had the bikes. They offered these races around Mount Morris Park in Harlem every year. And bicycle riders from all over would come and be a part of this race. And with his talent and his power, he won every year.
His transformation, to me, it seemed like it happened in a beat of an eye. That 1 minute he was just a guy at the local race, just doing his thing, and then all of a sudden he was in the magazines, or there was an article about him in Bellow News or something. All of a sudden he had grown.
I quit my job to go live at the Olympic Training Center. So I bust my ass and I worked my ass off to save money because I was leaving to go learn to race my bicycle. I had an invitation to a winter training camp.
I was take care 2 days. Wednesday was fine. So jump on the tractor. On the tractor. Everybody know me like Eddie B. Really, my name is Edward Borysewicz. I am Polish American. I come to this country in 1976 and start work for United States Cycling Federation. So I think I met him here. He came with his coach, supporter, guy who don't know what to ride the bike. He was very fresh, very muscular, very powerful, and like be really cyclist. So we start working from that. I have feeling, okay, this guy can be a good bike rider, good sprinter. That's only, I bring black guys to sport. Before, was little, not much. My sprinters was black, that's not only Nelson.
The cycling community never really held the color of your skin too much to task anyway. They've always been pretty much accepting of, can you ride a bike?
It was seeing this young, colorful, flamboyant African-American kid that was from New York, and he had this supporter, the sponsor, Lenny Preheim, who is a white, I think he's Jewish, man from New York City, and the two of them together were they were just so different. They were a stark contrast to each other.
Lenny Preheim and I left New York City to go to the national championships in San Diego, California. Me out of Harlem as New York State sprint champion, because you have to win your states to go to the nationals. And I won my first 2 races and didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Who's ready for some racing? Make some noise! Who's going to come off on the backside, and then we're going to be from the loose for 2.5 laps. Georgia's come off and the racing has begun. Any advice you have for competitors here this evening as Karen goes forward?
All you can give competitors advice is just keep it fun. Once you get too serious about it, then it becomes work, then it becomes stress, and a lot of energy is lost from that. So once you keep it fun.
Give round of applause for Nelson Vails.
My relationship with Nelson is he was my main man, chasing him, training partner, and a big factor, a big contributor, if you will, to my success as an athlete. I mean, I was one of the only woman that was training with some of the best guys in the world at that time, including Nelson. So I had a big advantage on my competition, I think. And when you've got the Nelson there, that guy that's gonna, come walking in and he's ready to work hard, but he's gonna make it fun, and that's it's kind of it's a vibe and a presence as much as any one memory that really, when I think about Nelson today, that's what I think of. It's like, it's a good vibe, it's a good, strong environment, it's a man we ruled at that time.
We were a powerhouse back then in the 80s. The USA in cycling was a big powerhouse on road and track.
The national championships of '83 went to 3 rides, and it was the fight of my life to beat Nelson.
We never raced against each other often. There was once, twice a year. And probably the nationals, I think, was the only time we really met each other in actual serious competition. Otherwise, we were always opposite.
Usually a coach has more than one sprinter at a time because they have to push each other. And consequently, Nelson was very, very instrumental in helping Mark get to the level he was. And of course, Mark was instrumental in helping Nelson.
And then following that nationals, Nelson went to the Pan American Games to compete, and I went to the World Championships. And Nelson won the gold medal in the Pan American Games convincingly.
Any one of us could have made the team, and that was the law. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. You win, you go. So when people say, oh, you trained 4 years for the Olympics, that's bullshit. You train 4 years to make the Olympic team.
He made the Olympics by because of the boycott from the East German bloc. So they selected, instead of one rider, sprint rider from the United States, they added, each country added an extra rider.
When the boycott was announced, I think Nelson and I both knew probably the minute the news came in that, you know, holy crap, we could be, if it's 2 per country, it could be you against me, and we could be going against each other for the gold medal.
Prior to the Olympic trials, there was room for 2. 4 sprinters. Mark is the #1 guy. He could lose it just like anybody else. Room for 2.
Nelson and I had a lot of these trips, a lot of competitions where we were all wearing the stars and stripes, competing against the top sprinters around the world, and there was a sense of that kind of built of us as team, you know, as real teammates.
People try to downplay a little bit the '84 Olympics because they said that, oh, the Soviet bloc boycotted the Olympics because we boycotted the Olympics in Moscow in 1980 because of Afghanistan. Well, that was not the case. They didn't boycott the Olympics in '84 because of Afghanistan, us boycotting, because they had come out with a test for steroids, anabolic steroids. And the Soviet bloc were all on steroids.
It was big news on Harlem that you know, someone from 115th Street made it to the Olympics. You know, that was like very unusual.
He represented the neighborhood. He represented the block, the building, and everybody was just on our side.
It meant that you can do anything that you want to do, that we weren't limited to the things that we can do. Like I said, growing up here, they got basketball courts everywhere you look, but for him to ride a bike, he did something different.
I was a kid on a bicycle who happened to be black, but just like everyone, treated equal like everyone else, I was just good at what I did. Out of all the events during my era, it was, I think, 11 different Olympic events, and the sprints was what I did best at.
What it led to, though, was the final 3 or 4 weeks leading up to the Olympics. You know, the screws are getting tighter, the pressure's growing, and it got pretty icy between Nelson and I.
There were 2 different body styles. Nelson shorter, stockier. Gorski was much taller, bigger. Gorski had much more experience. Gorski had been on the Junior Worlds team. He'd raced, you know, internationally. I took him to many, many different countries. Nelson didn't have that kind of experience.
But then I saw him he going to race the Frenchman, and they said the Frenchman was a top-notch man himself.
And now he's become a really fine track cyclist. He's in against one of the best of France. In fact, the French national sprint champion is Philippe Vernet, and current world tandem sprint champion with Frank Tapine. So he's in against world-class competition, and you can see that the Frenchman is very wary of Nelson Vails. He's seen him all week long. He knows how strong Vails is.
Knowing how he rides, he rode from the back. So it's like any boxer or anything, you watch tape on this guy. So watching how he rode all week long, he likes to ride from the back. And me, I was able to harness, I can ride from the front or I can ride from the back. So it didn't matter where I was going to be on the track to launch my speed.
And he done something I never saw done, is when he rolled out and he sat there on the bicycles.
Knowing that he wanted to be in the back, for me to bunny hop to him, which was a famous stop, because I had to cross the line, number one, that's where the bunny hop came from. My feet was in the position they needed to be comfortable, and bunny hopped right next to him.
And standing on the track, dead still, you have no idea what kind of balance and concentration this takes.
Nelson looks a little bit more relaxed up there. You can see he doesn't want to take the lead. He'd rather ride from behind.
You're only allowed to go backwards 5 centimeters here.
But they can sit here all day.
Right.
So I played games with them, which was I sat there another eternity, which was 5 seconds, maybe more. If that, maybe 10 seconds, but that was like, it felt like a minute.
Then all of a sudden he took off. And I guess when he took off, he got that little lead because the Frenchman didn't know when he was going to take off.
The Frenchman allowed me to run my game, which was to ride high on the track. He gave me my distance. I was able to watch him from his distance, knowing that he wanted to charge at me between turn 3 and 4 to come over the top. And from there, he allowed me not only to ride from the top of the track, but he allowed me to get my speed up.
And when the bell lap came on, he was way ahead.
All right, the bell lap, and this is where it will happen.
Now you can see Nelson starting to wind it.
And once my speed was up, after with 1 lap to go, I was at the top of the track, full speed ahead, down the transition. It's like going 0 to 100 miles an hour on your 2-wheel bicycle.
Behind, Vernet will go high here on the outside, and Vails is fighting him off.
Vails is on the pole lane.
And Vails pedals hard. He's going to win it. Oh, he came right up and looked him in the eye, and Vails said, see you around.
French rider tried to come inside on Nelson. Nelson was on point. Here you can see it. Here we can see it in slow motion. You can see Nelson in between the red and the black line. The French rider tries to come up inside on him. Nelson just cuts him off.
And I remember seeing my dad, you know, just rooting. And I remember the excitement that I had. We were so excited.
Nelson rode really well at the Olympics. He clearly was on top of his game there. He dominated Philippe. I mean, he rode really, really well, and not surprising. And from the early rounds into that point, Nelson was pretty flawless.
And then, unfortunately, he came down to go against another American.
And Gorski was, I believe, someone he looked up to, and he beat him on some occasions. So he knew that was going to be his major competition.
The way I prepare is by getting mad, getting angry. I don't want to shake hands and be best friends. I can't turn it on, turn it off. And that builds up over weeks for me. And it's getting ready for a title fight.
He was cocky, very confident. He didn't show any nerves at all. It was like, I'm here, I'm going to do my thing.
Because the newsman was there, they wanted to see the reaction of the family. You know, so the house was full of newsmen. It had some of the neighbors in there. They had a policeman in there. And it was so live.
There was a lot of focus on Nelson Vails in the Olympic world and among the media and USA Today. There was a big feature on him in People magazine. I mean, he was really well known. There was a lot of eyes on Nelson. And I was the quiet kid from suburban Chicago that, you know, yeah, he's a good rider, but probably kind of a boring story. And in my heart, it's like in my brain, I knew, like, if Nelson wins and I get second, no one is ever going to remember Mark Gorski.
So all of that hard work and effort comes right down to this. Mark Gorski has won the first heat. If he wins this, he wins the Olympic gold medal in the 1,000-meter match sprint. Up against him, Nelson Vails. I would guess Eric Heiden, going through his head right now, is what is the best strategy against this fantastic competitor that I'm facing?
Well, Nelson, I think, made a big mistake in his last ride against Mark. He let Mark take command, get the speed wound up, and again, I think Mark has the higher top end.
What would you do?
Well,
I mean, if you were Vails now, would
if I
you
was
just
Vails
take
now,
a flyer on him?
I would take a flyer, try to catch Mark off guard, get a big enough lead on him so he can't get in the draft, and just try to keep hammering. Try to make it a 1,000-meter time trial rather than a sprint.
Nelson Vails certainly has the strength to do it. Well, I'll tell you, you talk to him, he really feels like he's on a mission. In fact, he said, "This is my mission of gold." And he said, I know Gorski's beaten me before, but this will be different. Well, it has to be here. Now, Gorski, in this particular heat, has drawn the inside, so he must lead the first lap. Nelson Vails had to do it the last time. And there really wasn't very much in terms of cat and mouse or psyching that we saw. I would guess maybe you are right, Eric Heiden.
Well, Nelson has a lot of confidence, and right now he's in a good position. This is where, if he's smart, he'll back off a little bit and really accelerate, come by Mark, and hopefully get a flyer. I think that's the only way he's going to beat Mark, but you can see Mark looking over his left shoulder, always making sure that Nelson is right there, always knowing where he is, wherever they are on the track.
Mark was a guy that you don't want him in the front because then you can't get past him because he just goes faster and faster and faster. And if you did, you wanted to keep it short so you can outburst him in speed. Well, that was my advantage, was to keep it short and fast. I didn't allow myself enough time to get in front of him, to be in his way. So he took advantage of that.
So he started putting pressure on me earlier, like with about over 300 meters to go. He's coming at me. I know that if Nelson gets over the top of me, it's game over for me.
One of the things that we wanted to do, because Mark had a very predictable sprint, was to make him a little bit more unpredictable. And just suffice to say, we wanted to give Mark enough of a shadow of the doubt as to what he was going to do that Nelson would back off Mark by at least a half a more bike length before the sprint started. And we succeeded in that.
Just one lap to go and just stalking him. Almost like I can hear the bell now as it rings, and I'm just on him, pedal stroke for pedal stroke, and he knows I'm coming on him. And I remember him looking back at me and stalking me, and I just stayed right out of his blindside eyesight, and I gave it what I had to get underneath him. And during that time, it's almost like he knew.
The Mark.
All right, here we are into the last lap for the gold medal. Nelson Vails has to win this to stay alive and force a third heat. He goes down low. Gorski still with a very slight lead. Is that a good spot?
Nelson had to back off a little bit when he was on the apron, and this is a great spot for Mark right now.
He is going to win it. Mark Gorski has won the gold medal.
Just
a brilliant piece of riding by Mark Gorski, a four-time national champion, has won the gold, and Nelson Vails has won the silver.
He gave it his all. I was hoping he was going to beat Gorski because we all wanted him to win the gold. But silver was good.
And I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't that he was riding against another American, he would have won the Olympic Games. But when you have a guy that you train with all the time, knows all your moves, whatever, you're there, you're thinking about America winning first and second, maybe it took a little of the spark away.
He was supposed to win that bike race. I saw it. Me and my grandma, we was upstairs watching it. Like, go, Nelson, go, go. He turned around. And, what was he slowing down for?
Nelson had to start the sprint in front of Mark. And he had to anticipate Mark's moves and fade a little bit from in front of him and basically keep Mark from getting to top speed. And he had to do that. And it would have been, you know, a little bit more risky, a little bit more chancy, but that's the kind of rider Nelson was, and Nelson could have pulled that off.
Sharon, what do you think of Nelson?
Well, I was expecting Nelson. I had wanted Nelson to win the gold, but the silver's just as good. I'm very proud of him.
Nelson, the last ride, first ride really, Mark looked pretty powerful, looked pretty fast. What was going through your mind on that second ride?
Well, basically just to get underneath him and turn on all the power I had, 150%, to prevent him from going around me, but evidently I didn't make my move soon enough to get underneath him, and he overpowered me down the backstretch, and I just had to give it a second shot coming into the home stretch.
Mark Gorski, I believe that's his name. I was there because I was with his wife, Mary, and Nelson was really like that close to that wheel. He only beat him by that much. But, you know, it's okay because he did the best he could. You know, he did the best he could. And I was proud.
I think that I wanted it more than Nelson. I think that Nelson getting to the Olympics, being awash in all that being at the Olympics is, and even getting a silver medal, which is a tremendous accomplishment.
If you didn't have two Americans in the same race, it would have been different. You would say, do this, do that, ride a little tougher, do this. It was America, we don't want one guy knocking the other guy down. You have to put on a show for America, and 1-2 was fantastic. And it could have been the other way around, you know? It could have been Nelson first and Gorski second. It very could have been. But it's just how the chips fell.
It's, you say, well, maybe you didn't want it bad enough. I did not give up. Mark outpedaled me that day. Equal in speed, equal in tactics. He just outpedaled me. Mark went through this, his Olympic Games, not losing a ride. I mean, that's a hat trick in itself. But I just remember circling the track and talking to him and saying, man, congratulations, you pulled it off. And it's like, yeah, we did it. You know, he's just saying to me, we did it, we did it. And it was one of those things where we didn't want to get off the track. I mean, there was thousands, I don't know how many seats was filled in that stadium, and besides the people at home watching us, it was just filled with joy.
You know, everyone, you know, in your life, when you win a gold medal, everyone asks you, what did it feel like? Well, for me, it wasn't a feeling of elation as much as it was a feeling of relief, that this incredible pressure that I put on myself over months and years was finally off my shoulders.
I think the great victory was for my dad to see me pull that off. You know, it's like, hey mom, you know, hey mom kind of thing, but for my dad to actually see me pull that off from the bike races that we did growing up. The races lost, the pat on the back of, we'll get them next time. Just those times of, you know, crashing and being sore and being put in a tub to soak your muscles. And yeah, it was, I tell you what, to pull that off and for my dad to see that, let alone my family, I think that was a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
He's 25 years old and was a former bicycle messenger boy here in New York City, and you've seen them darting
all the time,
in and out of traffic. They really are terrific cyclists. And in any event, he made the transition onto the Olympic Games and wound up with a silver medal. Became a new American hero, so here he is, Nelson Vails. Hey, Nelson!
Look at the legs on him, Reed.
Wow. Overnight success is true. It's true to the word. Right away, Levi's, Strauss, and Raleigh Bicycles, I went through a series of media training.
Later, as he became the major personality and sort of the star in the Olympic world and in the cycling world, the fact that he'd been a bike messenger, it was great. It just added to his legend.
He was a movie star to everybody. He was about the biggest star that anybody in that building knew.
Whether it was gold or silver, it was a victory for Nelson. It was, here's a kid who came out of Harlem. He was now in the middle of a ticker tape parade in New York City in his hometown. He was the king of New York.
I think the community was pretty much just happy because, you know, cycling was a sport that was not dominated by black people. And to just see this black guy in a sport that's mainly white, and he's from home. So what did that do for the community? It gave us a good feeling about ourselves.
New York City, ETA 22 minutes, X-rays, extreme comfort, excellent optics, extra durable, X-rays, X-ray sunglasses never slipped, exact fit. Delivery successful. Ray-Ban X-Rays, serious sports sunglasses.
Hey, I'm looking at some flights right now to get back to New York. So I know the weather's a little cooler, but I want to be able to save some money and see the family and everything. So I also want to organize a ride in Central Park. So I don't know if you can get a hold of those guys at Toga, or I can call them and get a loaner bike. But I just want to let everybody know I'm coming home, and I want to get a little group ride together just to say hello to everyone while I'm in town.
Awesome. Just give us dates and we'll make it happen.
I was just starting to do a lot of professional amateur events, but knowing that I was still working on the '88 Olympic team still was an opportunity. Now I'm training, trying to pull back what I had in '83, '84, 4 years later, trying to put all that, harness all of that together to make the '88 Olympic team for Seoul. Go race and live in Europe and get contracts, make money, get invited to Japan, which was the big bulk of the money.
7番はドイツのディター・ギープケン8回目の日本への挑戦です。6枠8番がアメリカ3回目の来日ネルソン・ベイルス、そして9番が東京の南雲孝之です。
Yeah, he got a lot of new opportunities, and he went for what he liked and what he thought was best for us. So. And then down the line, things started, I guess we grew apart, and he went his way and I went mine.
I don't know the personal reasons why the marriage fell apart, but I knew Nelson was an international world traveler, and his wife did not keep up with him in that respect, in terms of growing with him, becoming more international.
Sharon was from Harlem, and they got to know each other, they fell in love, they had children together very young. And Nelson, then his life changed. I mean, Nelson became a different person to some extent. He was always the same guy, still is, but his life took him in so many new places.
I took love and didn't give back, because to me, I was the shit. I was making all this money and bringing it home. She didn't care about that. All she wanted was a thank you and I love you and I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I was too much of an asshole to even say or do things like that, It was a fun ride. I must say, between now and then, I made a lot of wrong turns because I was a youth with a lot of money and didn't handle it properly. So I made a bunch of money and didn't appreciate it because it was growing on trees.
Those days, you just spent money. You didn't learn how to earn money, you learned how to spend money. And when you come from no money, how are you going to learn how to spend money?
Life caught up to me to where I was pulled different directions. I started thinking differently, and I didn't have me today telling me back then the things I needed to do, the things I needed to harness within myself, because I left home and didn't come back. Not to say it was a downfall, but I was growing in a way to where I was forgetting where I came from. Just raised on 115th between 5th and Lenox, but this is true Harlem right here. And this was my view. That was my playground. You can see the Empire State Building and all the other skyscrapers that are going up in Central Park is right there. A quarter-mile away was my playground. If I wasn't at home, I was in Central Park riding my bicycle, lap after lap after lap. Normally, my building where I was raised is 2 buildings, 3 buildings down the block, 20 West 115th Street. So we're gonna go take a look at that. From this point here, if we were playing games, anyone's mom can hear your name called and you stop what you're doing and you run home or whatever. So Nelson, it's like my mom's calling me. And this was the atmosphere, man. Summer tournaments, basketball tournaments with a lot of pros came and played. I saw a couple of New York Knicks back in the day play basketball here, but it was a big hangout for summer games and summer tournaments. But this was home, man. This is where I was raised. I rode my bike around here, around here, around here, around here. This is where I rode my bike.
What's up? What's up? What's up? All right.
This is it, man. We grew up here.
Yeah.
You're looking good, looking good.
You too, man.
You know, I was looking up at it. It's almost like looking up at the building to see if I see you out the window kind of thing. Well, I was talking about the windows and how it wrapped around and all that stuff, and then we go around the back.
Right.
You know?
This is where we used to play with our Tonka trucks.
Yep, yep.
Wow, look at mine.
Good to see you.
Wow. It's good to see you too, man.
Good to see you, baby. How you been?
Good, good,
Looking good, man.
No, I'm trying, man.
I've been following you on that bike. I've been following
thank you, thank you.
Gentlemen.
You know?
What's up, baby?
You know, so, and I was talking about around the back. It looks a little different, but it's still the same. Is that still a community center?
It's still a community center, but it's not open to the community. Too much goes on here. It's not like when we were kids. We did
Right. You can go around the back and go in there and play pool or
ran
whatever.
these whole projects and have fun, and somebody looked out for us, but not anymore.
Exactly, because somebody can always see you from one window to another. Somebody saw you.
I used to get in trouble because Miss Julie would be up in there.
Right, exactly.
Now when kids get in trouble, parents hide. But they know the gun's coming out. You know what I'm saying? Kids nowadays, it's not like the village can raise us, right?
Right. And I was trying to explain
the village
that
is
too.
scared of today's kids.
There used to be fights. You see about 80 people.
Yeah.
Half of them be parents trying to break it up.
No more fights.
Now?
No more fights. They just shoot each other.
To the gun.
End it all right there.
You notice there's no kids out there running around. When we were kids, this place was full. Now, it's like a ghost town.
In those days, Harlem was good. We could go out and leave the door open. No problem. Leave the door wide open. Go outside, you don't have to worry about your kids. Everybody watch their kids. Your kids, my kids, everybody. That's the way it was in Harlem.
I grew up in an era where it was okay corral, I would like to say, in Harlem. I mean, there was no pretty picture. Yeah, I had a better childhood than most kids in the cul-de-sac, but then again, there was the drugs and violence involved, and you grew up with a sense of an acute sense of awareness.
Hey,
what's going on?
Hey,
What's up, man? How you doing?
Everything's okay,
Oh, man, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, man, look at this. You looking good, too, man. It's like I'm getting younger, you getting older. Ain't that a blessing?
I would say 30 years, 25, 30 years, to run in the White Cloud and just to walk and talk with him. You know, it's still today, I don't remember his first name. You just know everybody by their nickname because White Cloud, he was just a light-skinned kid, so we called him White Cloud.
I can say that Nelson, as far as his religion, his race, is just for any other, you know, anybody, for any culture, you know, would love to see somebody who's been from a neighborhood that sometimes is not as good as most other neighborhoods make it successfully. I think that's something very achieving for everybody to see. Like, you know, you're very proud about that, you know. It makes you want to just do what's right. It brings about encouragement.
Hello. How are you? Thank you so much for waiting.
Oh, yeah. Looking like his father. Before he was born, I was here. And when his mother got pregnant with him, she said she was going to name him Nelson, after Nelson Rockefeller. She said, so he'll be rich one of these days. I don't think he got rich yet.
And just one day he just came back with the horse legs. Like his legs were so big, I wasn't even surprised you was in the Olympics. I knew it was coming.
Whenever he would win or something, it was joy for the whole neighborhood. We had a hero, I'll call him. Yeah.
Look at that, that's good. So, but I just wanted to catch up with you a little bit and just say hi.
Yeah.
Because you
Looking
and
well.
I'm trying.
Good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Look like your dad. We all was proud of him. He's from Harlem. He made history in Harlem. He was very good. Everybody was proud of Nelson. Nelson Vails from Harlem. It was good for Harlem. He did it.
Hey, big sister, this is Nelson. I just got into town.
Hey, Nelson, how are you, darling?
I'm good, I'm good. It was a rough flight, a little bit of delays from the weather, but I'm here and I just want to, I'm excited. So I wanted to learn more about the church service.
Oh, praise God, that's a wonderful thing. Listen, guys, I called Brother Bobby, I called Earl, I called Preston. My boys will be there, and you said that you spoke to Sharon's kids, so we like, well, okay, we ready.
So I miss everybody and you know, I'm just happy for like a little mini family reunion that you're going to help me put together. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem, Nelson, no problem.
With Zooey, Nancy.
Okay. That's right. Pleasure. 8 laps, big loops, 8 big lap loops. It's only 50 miles. So started here, something like that. Started here. That way everybody can park here and do an 8 lap, 50 miler, and then have a big barbecue, something in Great Lawn. The band, but
no more barbecue in the park.
You can't barbecue in the park. No more fire in the park.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't.
The park is too gentrified now.
Yeah, you've been away too long. I heard a story. Columbia University did a study. He had the fastest leg speed ever recorded.
Yes.
The fastest leg speed ever recorded. The first day he got on a bike, he was fast. He used to have a bike way too big from 25-inch Peugeot PX10.
Yep, you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Remember that?
That's
A
where
drug
it
dealer
started.
bought that for me.
Yeah, right?
Yep. So, you know, I had a hustle washing cars. So can we ride 2x2 again?
Do you have a card?
Right? None of this. All my old buddies who it all began racing with them. Everybody I rode with in Central Park, they all came out to visit with me. Now it starts the rumors of a homecoming to where we can do an annual loop in Central Park. I really didn't have any expectations for my return. It was a nice surprise to see what became of it.
I was just trying to find this place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where'd you come from, the train?
Yeah.
I've never seen this here. I never knew of these places here, but I remember when Toga Bike Shop moved here, none of these high-rises was here. And I got myself a little 2-bedroom condo in San Diego area.
Oh, how you like that?
So it's good. It's good. I'm about, by car, I'm 5 minutes from the beach.
From as young as I could remember, he's always been traveling, always been doing bicycle rides around Harlem. You know, there was a time where they used to have rides all the time, and he would come out, and the whole family would just, like, you know, run out and cheer and support him on the sidelines during the races. I don't know. I know he's always had a love for cycling, and I know it's taken him in, you know, so many different directions in his life. I remember him going away a lot, you know, doing like tours. I remember seeing a picture of him and the president at the time and thinking that was like a really big deal.
You know, so that was nice to go to Toga where it began, because it was that street corner that Toga sits on is where I left Toga to take cycling to another level.
You know, I'm not even from this country, bro. I grew up in Central America, in Belize, and I remember it in the 80s, because in my country, we're a former colony of England, so cycling is huge. Track cycling in the Caribbean is huge, so your name was big in the Caribbean back in the day.
That's awesome.
All right.
That is incredibly awesome.
So now, did you know the history of that? That picture there, this was the start line for that picture.
Okay.
This was the Olympic Velodrome when it was brand new, and one of the first meets that they actually had.
Out in LA.
In LA. And Lenny and I flew there with the new skin suit, the whole new look of the skin suit. And I raced the Kieran, the sprint. No, they didn't have the Kieran. I raced the kilo, the points race. I raced everything but the pursuit.
The visual aspect of looking at a picture and seeing somebody in a school book when you're 10 years old in elementary school and seeing power and seeing a cyclist that's the same color as your skin it's remarkable. And it'll change your life as a kid. It made me think that I could do anything. Nelson Vails to me is an inspiration. Nelson Vails could be one word: strong, courage, you know, to show that as an African American you can do something that's strong for you and your family.
When he won, it was like there was nothing had to be said. It was just a big smile, you know, that you're happy for somebody. He deserved what he got. He worked really hard. He had such a desire beyond anyone I knew. And I was just overjoyed for him.
No, I know. Okay. Well, yes, you do. Remember when we moved in here back in 1982? You were just a baby then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you were raised in this place.
2 years old.
That's right.
This was our room when we was younger.
That's right.
We grew up in this room.
That was the master bedroom.
This was the kids' room, and this was my parents' room in here.
That's right.
Which completely
You kids
changed.
keep the noise down.
Mm-hmm. They used to knock on the door and say, "Be quiet, be quiet." This house been through a whole lot. I remember in 1986 when my brother was born, and we had a couch right here, and my mother laid him down on the couch. She was like, "You guys have to watch him. You have to watch him." And he was so tiny, and still to this day, every time I look at this corner, I think of when he was a baby.
Preston, I didn't know too well. I guess when I was born, around the time I was born, he had got himself in trouble and did some time. So for most of my childhood days, he was incarcerated. Back in those days, I think with the racism, you know, I believe compared to crimes today, he served a longer term than he should have with today's crimes.
Because when I started working, it was only $1 and I was getting paid $1 an hour. Come on with $40 a week. You know, you had to throw a brick or something. You know what I mean? But I did what I had to do, you know. And I had a son his age. And his son, he's a little old, a few months older than my son. So I did what I had to do.
My two older brothers, it's just so cool. Now that I'm older and they're much older, but just to be able to relate, because I resemble both of them, and I feel that blood tie, that spiritual aura. But it's good. Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming down, though.
Oh, man,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Good to see you.
I'm happy you came across town. I know, right? I got your name on the phone.
Yeah.
So it's good. Now I focus more on making time to go back to New York just to hang out. My parents was always churchgoers. My mom was always a churchgoer, whether I went or not. That was the Baptist religion, I suppose. Was always part of my family, and it was part of the discipline of the family.
How are you? You doing? Good to see you. Look at He's my friend. He's my friend. He's my friend. He's my friend. He's my friend.
But I'm proud this afternoon to just talk about the oldest of the 11 children first before I bring up the youngest. Amen. Amen. And that's my older brother, Robert. Amen. He is one of the first all-black Rangers. There's a book about them, amen, that served in the Korean War. He remained on active duty longer than any other member of the company, amen. Him and 10 other members who are still living had the opportunity to have a private audience with our President, Barack Obama. He shook the hand of our President, Barack Obama. Amen. A private audience. He said that Barack said to him, your name, he
told him his name, and he said, "Job well done." Amen. And he said he's tall too. I said, "Bobby, he's tall?" He said, "Yeah, he's tall. He taller than me. He was tall." Amen, amen. Now that also brings me to talk about the baby of the family. The baby of the family, Nelson Vails, amen. The youngest of 11 children. He was my responsibility, and he gave me a hard time. Everybody was grown and went on their way, so I was responsible for babysitting him. But they gave me a hard time. He was always in my stuff. He was, when I didn't go home, every time I turned around, he was in my room looking at stuff and going into stuff. He was just into stuff. But you know what? I thank God he was into good stuff. From Harlem, amen, a black boy who rose up on a bicycle, who used that. He used to win every race that held around the Mount Morris Park. They had those races every year, and he would win a bicycle. Well, one day, I guess there were, how do you call it, sponsors looking at talent. They said that he was a Harlem messenger. Yeah, he needed a job because he had children at a very young age with his wife at that time. Sharon, stand up if you will. His children, would you stand? You got Shaniqua, you got Sharon. Amen. Shaniqua and Imani and Sharon, amen. He became a messenger, but at that point, not only because it was a job, it was because he used that to help him train, amen, to keep his chops up, so to speak. Well, he won the silver medal, amen, but not a silver medal or lost to another country, but he lost to another team member of the United States. The United States took both the gold and the silver in the 1984 cycling Olympics. Amen. I don't know if y'all can see it, but this is him and Mark Gorski doing a victory lap, amen, after winning the silver and gold medal during the 1984 Olympics. So without further ado, at this time, I am so proud of my baby brother, Nelson Vails. Amen.
No, there he is. Oh, hey. Wow, you look great. Look at this, man.
Great coming in.
Wow, man.
Good shape.
Man, how's the family?
Family's doing really well.
Good.
Gavin, the youngest, is now 10, and Alex just got his MBA, and yeah, they're growing up like
I gotta
yours.
look at those pictures, man. I gotta catch up. I know Shaniqua is 35 now, and my son Trevor, he's the youngest, he's 15.
There was, when the Olympics were here, they actually had a paved road like this.
And this looks like the road, you're right. So most of the stuff would have stayed. And then the velodrome would have been pretty much to the left of this building.
I think it was, you know what, I think it was actually really literally like right here.
Right, so it was this way,
it went east and west.
Yep, this was the road that the spectators went in to go get their tickets and all that stuff. And you and I were the only ones, and the team came in from the back way. You know, because everyone else stayed at UCLA or something, and we had that hotel.
I remember the velodrome, and it went east and west. Had the regular stands, and they put
they stacked them up.
Huge stands. Those things were full to the rafters.
That's right. It was like that house was like 10,000 people or something. Remember we just said right here, we were probably like right here somewhere. Where's the concept? The track and field is right there.
LA, you wasn't in Austria or France. This didn't exist in the United States. This is crazy. Yeah. We wouldn't have something like this. We'd be going back with Carl and Lass and Berryman and having schnitzel.
And french fries. And pommes frites.
For dinner after work on the track.
Crashed somewhere in France and I was all bruised up. I tried to shoot the hole and wrecked myself. It was in one of those races in France and we were having dinner and I'm all like scuffed up. It was just one of those races that crashed. It was like cold and it looked like it was gonna rain, but it didn't rain, so we still had to race anyway. It was many days like that.
So many days like that.
And I remember the night before the finals, Carl saw me walking around in the lobby the night before the finals, and we went to Hamburger Henry's in Long Beach somewhere and had a burger like at 2 in the morning. We already had a game plan. It's like, this is what we're gonna do. And even Eddie B always says, you're supposed to go a little harder, you're supposed to go harder and get underneath him. You know, it's like, yep, you know, it's like all I had to do was get in your way, and I didn't get in your way, so I blew it. You know, if I would have gotten in your way, that would have been it.
Oh, I knew that.
But because I had to get in front of the elbow like this. You know, that's right. So, but those are the days.
You can look back at your life and say, wow, you know, I was pretty lucky. I was pretty lucky to be able to experience that in life. And I know Nelson feels that. I mean, you know, it's kind of like whatever happens, what they can't take away is that feeling the emotion of being sort of at the top of the mountain.
I look at it now as a gift because he took that talent and he took it to the next level. He had a talent to ride a bike. Something that everybody learned to do.
And for an African American to enter the cycling arena, just one guy, not a whole group, 5 or 6 African Americans, just one, it was very unique. It turned African Americans onto the whole area of bike racing, as well as other sports.
I think Nelson more or less wanted to be free, and he was a free spirit.
What Nelson did to cycling brought a lot of more African-American kids into cycling, which is fantastic.
He's real. He's a real dude. He's done the real thing. He's done the same thing I have in life. Not only for African-Americans, just showing diversity and power through diversity.
He made us believe that we can do anything. You know, if we trained hard enough and worked, he had to climb that tree and wouldn't come down. That bike took him places.